Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the world, from Cape Cod to Cancun, from Vegas to the Vatican. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson at East Coast Sports Investors. Your breakfast bankroll midday report. We are at the All Star break currently, right now, and we're going to talk some home run derby. We're going to talk some props, some live odds from BetMGM, give you some insight to what we see. I can tell you already, the whole world is on Shotani. The whole world. So it's his game to win. It will be in Colorado. There is lots of talks of home runs of being over 500 feet. And it's going to be a fun watch for sure. But without further ado, my man from Tampa, the man with the plan, the one and only Scott E. Webb. Scotty, my brother, what is up?
Hey Jeff, how are you today, brother? It is the midday report and midday report on all the teams, and let's have some fun today with this home run derby stuff.
Yeah, the first half or the All Star break ended for some teams like it started, and the favorites went 9-4, the overs 6-7, and some of the big dogs at cash: Phillies plus 180, Pirates plus 198, Reds plus 158, Rockies plus 170. Not to take too much time on this, we've spent a lot of it already, but if I'm Cashman, I'm calling Chicago Cubs right now, and whatever it takes, I'm getting Kimbrel. I mean, since Spider Tack, Chapman's the worst relief pitcher in the game, and then they bring in Green yesterday, and he allows 6 runs in the ninth, and Altuve and company get a 3-run walk-off, 3-run homer walk-off to end that game. I mean, we could talk at length about these guys. It's just turmoil. The Red Sox get a gift with Nola and COVID and a bullpen game for the Phillies. And we've talked about the Phillies in their back end, and they can't even close the deal against them. A crazy day to end the first half of the season. Thoughts on yesterday? Thoughts on the first half, and what some of these teams should do?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I agree that the Yankees are in kind of a weird spot because they're not out of it. They need a run to get back in it, and the only way the Yankees are going to get a run, though, as far as I'm concerned, is offense. I mean, I know that the back end of the bullpen didn't do well yesterday, but the truth of the matter is that if they're going to match up to some of these teams that they have to catch, the reality is they're going to have to score some runs. That includes against Boston. That includes against, the Rays and the Oakland A's and the people that they might be battling for, not only for the division, but the wild card. So they don't score very well, and they don't score very easily, put it that way. And you can see that there's some life in some of those guys, but they need a whole lineup that can match an American League lineup. I mean, you got guys that are still batting 200 or below. You still got Guardy Man still playing out there, and I mean, what is up with that? I mean, this is the New York Yankees. You know what I mean? Like the truth of the matter is you don't have to have Guardy Man out there. You don't have to have Tyler Wade on this team. You don't have to have these players. You can go get whoever you want. You can go get them whenever you want. So I'm very confused about what's going on in New York, in a sense that they think they have these great athletes, and Judge is really good. Urshela plays above his means. And the rest of them kind of just show up every once in a while. So you can't tell me that this team is going to do well if they can't manufacture runs and if they can't string hits together. We talk about it all the time on the show. It's hard to do that, but your better teams do it all the time. The Red Sox do. The Red Sox don't always score on home runs, and they get a lot of hits, and they get a lot of runs because they got 3, 4, 5 guys that string hits together and play well together. And The Yankee lineup doesn't mesh that way. They need a true leadoff guy. They need guys to get on base. They need to quit betting Judge second. They need to move him down in the order, get some runs, get some RBIs in there. They need to figure out what to do with Torres because, if he's only going to hit 3 home runs, you need to move him down in the lineup, bat him ninth, but he'd be a great ninth hitter. But, you're going to need to have guys that can hit and hit for power, but also hit for a little bit of average. Luke Voit was a fluke. So, you got these guys that you think are really good, but they're not. I mean, Luke Voit, are you kidding me? I get it. He hit the most home runs in the 60-game season last year, but you can see what happens over 162. They're not the same team.
And I think the Red Sox are in a real tough spot because they're trying to build their farm system, which was destroyed for a few years back, but they did win the World Series because of it. They got a gift in the draft yesterday. The whole Boston fan base, once Leiter wasn't drafted number 1, they're like, oh, you got to get him. There was no way he was going to make it to 4. But in some of the experts said that the guy that slid to them at number 4 was actually rated the number 1 player in this draft. But they know Sale's coming back. They're going to put him out for about a month of rehab starts. They're going to ease him back. I don't see them pulling the trigger to make a big deal. I always talk the Jeff Bagwell for Larry Anderson trade way back, and we're a year ahead of schedule. So it'll be interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline. And some of these other teams, again, the Dodgers pulled a miracle out of their hat yesterday, down 4-1 in the 8th. They tie it 4-4. And for everyone that had the Dodger run line, they get another gift because they get the 3-run homer walk-off for a 7-4 win. But that's Arizona. And that's, there's some ugly teams out there. So the second half is definitely going to be interesting. But with that said, let's move this over to the Home Run Derby. I got some information over at BetMGM, and it's kind of interesting. Some of these numbers that are up there, I want to show them to you and all the rest of the viewers here today. And I just, as I said, it's Shotani's world. He's a plus 200 to win it all. You got Matt Olson at 700. The second favorite is Joey Gallo. And looking at these current numbers, Trey Mancini, what a story he is, at plus 1,200. Initially, Scott, looking at those numbers, anything pique your interest?
Yeah, you're going to be surprised. I how things go with me in numbers world and trying to get creative and figure out who can do what. So I got lots of numbers, but in terms of just looking at numbers, I always look at this stuff as prop bets, and you want to get good return on your money when you do prop bets. So you might take a bet that you might not normally take. You just don't put as much money on it or whatever, with the idea being that it's a for fun thing. It's an exhibition. It's they're going to try to do what they can do to be competitive, and they're going to try to stack up against everybody else. But there are some guys in this competition that I don't know why they're there. And then there's other guys that truly deserve to be there. But sometimes, like the Salvador Perez, for example, he truly deserves to be there because he's one of the best home run hitters in the league this year. But looking at my numbers, he's 6'4", 240 pounds with a long swing. That guy's going to tire out, and he's going to just be exhausted. He's the oldest guy in the competition. So as far as I'm concerned, even though he deserves to be there and he's got all the home runs, he's that's just stuff like that kind of gets in people's way sometimes. And I get it, everybody's all on Shohei Ohtani, but I'm not interested in him as a bet.
And BetMGM does a great job of it as well, where they actually will allow you. Let me move the screen a little. They got some props here where you can actually get the exact outcome. And again, if you're a chalk bettor and think it's Shoei's world, where you can get him beating Olsen plus 1,100, you can get him beating Trevor Story, the hometown favorite, at plus 1,400, and so on and so forth. I'm intrigued with Juan Soto. I'm intrigued. He's young. He hasn't had a great first half. You talk about how these guys wear down in this event here, and being in Colorado, I think some of these guys are going to be taking the gorilla swings. Who can get the longest home run? I don't know what the under over is. Oh, here it is right here. Longest home run in the first round, 500.5 feet, minus 135. And I think that's your best chance right there to get one of those monster bombs there. But again, hats off to BetMGM for setting this up this way. Anything there might pique your interest, or who is maybe one of your dark horses?
Well, I like guys that have done this event before. I don't guys that have done, like Pete Alonso, for example. He has done this event. He's actually won this event. Well, I don't think he won. He came in second or something. I don't remember. But I mean, he's one of these guys that he's a big guy. But here's kind of the list, right? So I went through and I'm like, who are the guys and who are the big guys? So Pete Alonso, you think is big. He's 6'3", 245 pounds. Trey Mancini's 6'4" and 215 pounds. So you don't think Trey Mancini's like as big as Pete Alonso, but he's just 30 pounds lighter, but he's actually taller. Joey Gallo is 6'5", 235 pounds. Shohei Ohtani, 6'4", 210. Perez, 6'4", 240. Matt Olson is 6'5", 225 pounds. Trevor Story is 6'2", 213, and Juan Soto is 6'2", 224. So people don't really realize when they see these guys on TV that if you walked up to them, they would tower over most people. I mean, pro athletes are monstrous humans. They don't necessarily always come across that way on TV. But I'm looking at what I did, and I'll kind of share it with you a little bit. So what I believe in is in a home run derby, you need guys that hit fly balls. So I went back and I started looking at, fly ball rates for these guys. And I get it. It's a game time decision, game time things, and it's a little bit different. But I don't want to bet on guys that aren't normally naturally hitting fly balls in a home run derby contest. So I want to eliminate some players. So number one, Trey Mancini is only 33% fly ball rate. So as far as I'm concerned, that's not high enough. And Juan Soto is only 25%. So there's two guys that I'm going to eliminate right away. And then when you take the next level up, you have Salvador Perez. He only hits 36% fly balls. So I need guys that are going to be over 40, and that's where you start to see some definition come into this thing. So Joey Gallo, 47% of his hits are balls in contact, are all fly balls. Pete Alonso, 46%. Matt Olson, 45%. And Shohei Ohtani, 43%. So as far as I'm concerned, those are the 5 guys or 4 guys that I'm going to look at. And then when I started to really kind of break it down, I wanted to look at it too from a perspective of home run hitters in these contests. They don't hit them to the opposite field. So you want guys that hit pull hitting. So I looked at Shohei Ohtani, 43% pull hitter, and Joey Gallo, 42.5% pull hitter. 40% was Pete Alonso. So these guys are starting to stand out to me where I started to eliminate other guys. And then there's an interesting thing now. I don't know if people use Baseball Savant that much, but they actually quantify home runs by a couple of different things. One of them is whether they were no doubt home runs, meaning that the length of the ball traveled would have been out in almost any park, versus some of the ones that just eked out or, maybe not be home runs in other places. And this is where things are kind of really interesting, because when you look at it, Gallo's 66% of his home runs, and he has hit 24, 66% of them are no doubt home runs. It's gone anywhere. And then the next guy on the list is Pete Alonso at 70%, where you look at guys like Ohtani, he's only 51% of his home runs would be out anywhere. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just the point being that when you hit home runs, you want them to travel and not necessarily be a guy that ekes them out over the fence. because you're going to be in this home run contest where you're going to need to have the big power. So I'm really looking at guys like Joey Gallo, and I'm looking at Joey Gallo and Pete Alonso. I think those two guys, number one, I think when I looked at it on what I was looking at for numbers, Shohei was the favorite, Gallo was the 2 favorite, and Alonso was the 3rd favorite. But if I'm going to pick them, I'm going to pick Gallo to be the winner, and I'm going to pick Alonso in there. And I kind of like the idea of certain matchups, right? So I liked Ohtani over Soto in the first round, Alonso over Perez in the first round, Olsen over Mancini, and Gallo over Story. But then it gets to where you got to figure out who's going to do what, because Alonso is the guy. He has to beat Ohtani. So that's where the matchup's going to be. And I think the idea with Alonso already having done one of these tournaments, I think that he's got an edge. And he's just a natural home run type swing guy, big guy, but he's not like Salvador Perez, who's got a long swing to really work to get home runs. Alonso hits them and they go. So I kind of like that idea. I was looking at it from a perspective too of barrel rate. So if you can get the ball on the barrel, the ball's going to go. Ohtani leads the way, but then Pete Alonso, Salvador Perez, and Joey Gallo are right there. So Joey Gallo is second. Joey Gallo is second in a lot of all these numbers. And in my mind, that gives him an opportunity because he's got the easiest path. If Joey Gallo beats Trevor Story, then the next person he's got to beat is probably Olsen, and he's in. Once he beats Olsen and he's in, then he's going to have to face off with the next guy that would either be like Ohtani or Alonso, and they might get tired just in that battle. So I like Gallo to win it all.
And looking at that was my second choice there. So if we were going to use what you just told everyone here, you can get a Gallo and Olsen final both at plus 1,400 to win. So technically, if we were looking at some beer and pizza money, as you said in the props, and you did a Olsen to Alonso to beat Gallo, that's at plus 1,400, and Gallo also to beat Alonso at plus 1,400. If you sprinkled quarter, you got some great value if they can, get to that final. And my assumption is for all the D-gens of the world, there will be in-game live wager in here. So if you get one out of the two in there, you can just jump right in and try to hedge or, make some extra money on your profit there. With that said, go to BetMGM. If you're on Twitter right now, you can pull it right up. Again, I pulled these odds from them. The best success that you can have long-term in sports wagering is to have as many shops as that you can to window shop or, find the best numbers around each, especially in an event like this. Every book's going to have different numbers. A lot of books are going to have a lot of different props and availability to you. Your local guy might not have much at all. So again, remember it's an exhibition, and what we expect to happen doesn't always happen with that. So Scott, before we close today, as we start the second half and we get closer, the first game is Thursday, Red Sox and Yankees, and then on Friday the rest of the teams come back and they all play. In your mind, second half, American League, National League, any team stand out where you can see that's maybe ready to make a run before the trade deadline? Any teams that you're ready to put a fork in, or is it still a sit, watch, and wait?
Well, some of these teams I think are interesting. So it depends on what they think of what their chances are, right? So say take a team like the Toronto Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays are 4 to 7 games behind the Red Sox now. But they're a good young team, and they just need quality pitching to help them get to where they need to go. And the question becomes, is that going to be a team that actually goes out and does something with pitching, or are they going to kind of rely on some of the guys that were hurt to come back? The Pearson kid that throws 100 miles an hour reminds me of. So teams like that kind of have to figure out where they are. The Cleveland Indians have to figure out what they're all about. I mean, it's great that they're in second place in their division, but if they have no chance to get to a point where they're going to get a pennant or get to the playoffs, they need to start revamping their team and get roster configuration correct for going into next year. So they might have pitchers that are available. And then you got to look at teams like the Angels. The Angels are a team that it's 500-ish, but they could play and go on a run if they just get pitchers. I mean, if you could put a couple of good pitchers in the front end of that Angels team, there's nothing to say they wouldn't go up and surpass where the A's might end up or something like that. And they might actually get a shot at making a wild card run. So I think that teams have to really figure out where they are. In the American League, it's a little bit harder because in the National League, I think it's done. I don't think unless there's major injuries. You've got the Giants who won 57 games and the Padres who won 53 games. The Dodgers have won 56 games. So there's only, 62, 63 games left. If they go 30-30, those teams are going to win 90 games almost. So if you can't win 90 games, you're in trouble. And the Reds are at 48. So they're going to have to win, 50 games to get there. And they didn't have 50 games won the time before. So they're going to have to go 30-20 to win 90 games. The Phillies, all these teams are just, I don't think they're going to get to 90 games. So that really kind of seals the deal in the National League. So can you actually make a run to win the division? Maybe the Phillies think, okay, the Mets aren't good enough and we're going to make a run and we're going to try to beat the Mets. Well, that's something they can try to do. I mean, they got a lot of payroll tied up in that team, but they got no pitchers either. So, I mean, they got Wheeler. So, I mean, they got to go get somebody else to help them. And I think that's where the GMs have to come in mind, and they have to go, let's look what the Brewers do. The Brewers have 3 pitchers that can pitch. They got Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta, and those 3 guys have been dynamite. And looking at that, they're way ahead in that division, and probably going to be a point. And they don't even hit. I mean, that's a team that can't score, and they're going to win all these games because they got 3 pitchers. So when you look at what pitching can do, and then you put those 3, say you can make it to the playoffs, you want to play them. You want to face Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta, and then take your chances because you're gonna be, I don't know, say you're the Mets and you're out there and you got a half injured DeGrom, and you've got, I don't know, you got the guy they got from Toronto last year, the Walker. You got Walker out there, and they don't match up, and the Mets don't hit either.
They got Stroman too.
Well, there you go. You got Stroman too. So, but would you take any of those guys other than DeGrom over what the Milwaukee Brewers can do? So I sit here and think to myself, okay, what is the competition look like, and then where do we have to go to beat that competition? And then in the American League, it's more wide open than it is in the National League for sure. And offense can be the biggest differentiator as we go forward if they can get teams that can start hitting over 200, 230 or 235 or whatever the average is right now, and teams can start scoring runs. Because if you can get to a point where you get a team like what Houston was doing there a little while ago, scoring all those runs and winning all those games, it didn't matter who they threw out on the mound. If you have a team like that, you might be able to make it to the end and then figure out what you can do bullpen-wise and all kinds of different things to try to get yourself home to the end. But I think American League's wide open. I think National League is pretty closed. So I'm really hopeful to see these teams really start to figure out what they want to do. We talked about it yesterday. Bring up the young guys, let them pitch. Quit throwing LeBlanc out there. Quit throwing these guys that are I don't want to say that they're half dead. I don't mean it in a mean way. I just mean it in a sense that their careers are over. They're done. Get them out of there. You talked about it yesterday, Matt Moore and these guys. They should not be big leaguers anymore. They need to go out the way that Cologne did. Get these guys out of here. They've got the young guys going. Let this young guys game. Let it happen, and let's see what they can do.
I think at the top of my head, like a Washington team that, again, was rolling once they put Schwarber to the top of the lineup. Now he's got a bad hammy. Now they're dropping. We're talking about shells of themselves. John Lester, I mean, he's an auto fade as it is. He couldn't get you and I out, honestly. I mean, he's a disaster right now. So does Washington become sellers all of a sudden? And is Max is a big chip for them, and again, the Yankees, I keep bringing up the Yankees because they were expected to do so well, okay, and they're the piece in the American League. If the Yankees never get that run to start the second half, they got 4 games against the Red Sox. The Red Sox got like 18 games in 18 days against against the Yankees, Jays, and I might even want to say your Rays. So we could know a lot in the first 3 weeks here. But White Sox getting Jimenez back soon, and then before you know it, Roberts could be back. So I think they're all set. Obviously, Houston's all set. I think the Rays are I'm comfortable to say the Rays are there. We're all waiting for that Red Sox hiccup. Will it be the first 4 games in the Bronx? But for the National League, I mean, with the Acuna injury, I think the Mets by default, with the injuries in Washington, are there. The West we've talked about. Are the Giants going to stick and stay? Everything I see, I love the team. I'm rooting for them. The Padres are showing some leaks, some chinks in the armor, and the Dodgers, of course, are going to be there. You talked about the Brewers. So it's going to be definitely a great second half. We can't wait. I think tomorrow what we can do is we'll do a breakdown of maybe the American League or the National, or we can decide how we want to do it and take a look at the standings, bring up the fan graphs, the projected wins, and see if we can see some differentials where we might be able to pull a future or two out of our hat.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we want to be looking for. Is we want to be looking at how do we look at the future and make some money out of it, because we have to then be GMs in our own mind and go, well, this is what's getting ready to happen, and and try to figure that out to a degree. And if they can get to a point where all you have to do is get in the wild card. I mean, all you got to do is get there. And if you can get there, you got a chance. And especially in the American League, where all the teams are pretty much even, and I shouldn't say even, they're just not as dominant as maybe that some of the teams in the National League are compared to the rest of them. But I just think that if you're going to face the Red Sox, say in a series in the playoffs, and I'm not going to go into that series if I'm playing them and be afraid of their pitchers. So I just know that I got to pitch well because they're going to hit, or my team's got to hit, and we got to keep up. But if you think about what the White Sox can do or what the Astros can do, it's going to be a softball game. These guys are going to hit. But if you throw the White Sox out there, and I keep saying them by name just because they have guys who can pitch, and if they're on, I mean, not that they're the greatest pitchers in the world, but they're more ace-like than more of the other teams have. You got Rodon, and you got Lance Lynn, you got Dallas Keuchel, you got Cease, who throws 100 miles an hour and started to figure things out. You get Giolito. You got guys in the bullpen like Kopech who can come out and throw 100 miles an hour. I mean, and then you bring in Jimenez, and all of a sudden you've got a rock and roll team. And I'm just sort of convinced that going in, they ought to be the ones who won't be favored, but in my mind are a pretty good shot at it.
I agree. I agree, and I think trade deadline and the injured guys coming back is going to be a big plus for them. And again, for the Red Sox, we'll see what happens with Sale and what they do. So for tomorrow, we'll be back. Tomorrow, we'll see what time we're on live. We're going to go over the American League and National League. For tonight, take a look at Gallo and Alonso. Shop around, see if you can get that exacta in the finals, and go from there. Remember, always wager with your head, not your heart. There's a 800 number out there. Reach out and get some help. So from Jeff and Scott, from Cape Cod to Tampa, that's the show today. Thank everyone that was here. And best of luck tonight at the Home Run Derby. Enjoy it, and we'll catch you tomorrow.